Richardson takes it all! A goal from the heavens for Kieran Richardson!
Really, he could be in here, he's all alone, and he's gone! Sensation at Wembley from Sunderland! McGeady! Phillips, good try! Brilliant! Brilliant!
Edwards goes for the spectacular!
Corner comes in, Evatt! Yes! Oh! It's about Evatt!
His cross is a cracker for Quinn! He's done it! He has done it!
Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview show in association with Viper Goalkeeping. Sunderland stuttered a little bit last week as they allowed Fleetwood Town and have 2 late goals to ensure that we dropped off the top spot in League One, which we were occupying quite nicely beforehand. However, we're still in the automatic promotion spot, and with a few days to digest the game, I think we're more than ready to get back into it this weekend. And just to let you know, we are recording before the Wigan Cup game, so if we do get smashed and I sound a little bit positive, do forgive me. But I think most of us would agree that it's all about the league this season and most importantly, getting out of it. And one team who I think will probably feel the same after their excellent start of the season is Bolton Wanderers. And here to preview the game on Saturday is James from Bolton Fanzine, the Lion of Vienna Suite. But James, how are you doing? Are you all right?
I am not too bad, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Like I say, had a couple of days to digest that Fleetwood game and hopefully we don't get smashed off Wigan and Charlie White gets a hat-trick and everyone's listening to this in good spirits. We'll go straight from the top. I said Sunderland stuttered last week. I think Bolton did as well. Obviously, I lost to Rotherham, but that's no great shame. They're a good side. But all in all, an excellent start of life in League One. How would you assess the season so far?
Yeah. If you've ever seen Ian Evatt, you know that he's quite an ambitious man. He said right from the off that we're all aiming for promotion. Some fans would accept mid-table. Me, I kind of like to ride that positivity bandwagon. I said from the beginning we should be at least minimum aiming for playoffs. And early doors suggest we'll probably be in and around there. Like you said, a couple slip-ups here and along there. We've lost to Cambridge and Rotherham so far. We drew against Burton when we shouldn't have. Things like that you might get along the way. Hopefully we're just getting them out the way early and we're just going to push on for the rest of the season. Pod's early days performances, aside from some defensive hiccups here and there and some inability to break down teams who like to play a low block, I'd say overall we've played really well and it's looking on good track that Ian Evatt might actually attain his ambition of back-to-back promotions.
Talking about back-to-back promotions, stuff like that, I think there's a few teams come up from League Two and they go, well, consolidate. And I think Cambridge obviously came up this season. Cheltenham obviously came up this season. But Bolton's a little bit of a different beast. I mean, throughout most of my lifetime, Bolton have been in and around the Premiership and at the very least in high-level Championship up until, well, we all kind of know what happened and I'm sure we'll get into it. But now that things have turned a little bit, it's a kind of a case of because the size of the club and the league that you're in, you can afford to go straight into like the league that you've been promoted into, attract the right level of players and say, hey, look, let's try and go for playoffs or automatic promotions. There's no need to consolidate.
It certainly helps. But I think because of everything that's happened to us over the years, in a sense, we've kind of been humbled a bit. Like we've obviously had the stature of the club and in the past, especially the amount of fans to bring in, the facilities, all that sort of stuff. Over the years, that's kind of been stripped away by con men and just players who didn't live up to the hype, turgid performances, all that sort of stuff. It's only more recently when we've been able to rebuild a properly stable foundation under the ownership of FV and then being committed to a complete revamp, despite it being under definitely a tighter budget than we're used to in the past. It feels like the club's a lot more united in a sense, from academy level to the first team squad. A lot of the players play the same sort of style, so the transition isn't as different as it would have been in the past. There's a closer link in that regard. Even in the back room, our owner, Sharon Britton, and people behind the scenes, they're hiring people like Chris Markham, our new technical director, who are in consistent chat with the likes of Ian Evatt and other members of the staff to know what kind of players to go for, what type of style we want to play, how we want to attract them, what our budget is to bring in the kind of best that we can do with what we've got. And it all just culminates into this fantastic momentum. It took us a while to get going last season, but when it clicked, it really clicked. And thankfully, it's carried on somewhat this season. Still some hiccups along the road, but outside of that, I'd say we're in a really good position to be within a genuine shout of back-to-back promotions. So many factors just working together to make that seem possible.
Funny you mentioned a few things there, and my ears pricked up when you said about bad ownership and sort of bad players coming in and mercenaries. I was thinking, I'm sure I asked him about Bolton, not Sunderland, but there you go. I think you had it a little bit harsher than we had maybe, but I think a few Sunderland fans might align with that. It's funny, I remember not so long ago, I was looking at like a glance at the League Two table to see kind of how you were getting on because, you know, as we kind of touched on very, very briefly, you almost went out of business. Unfortunately, Sky Sports found it was a good reason to put up a clock when that was happening. I think everyone remembers. Horrendous. Thankfully, you know, you did survive. Unfortunate for Bury, who had the same thing. They didn't, but I think everyone will be saying they're quite pleased to see Bolton come back, as it would be with almost any club, I think. But League Two didn't start too well, if I remember correctly. You were like languishing around, not the bottom, but the bottom half. And Ian Evatt didn't seem massively popular. He didn't start that well. Obviously, things have changed. And because, you know, you wouldn't be in League One and playing us on Saturday if not. But from an outside perspective, can you run us through last season, how it picked up and how Ian Evatt is viewed at the moment?
Yeah. Well, obviously to start off with, purely because of things like the stature of the club and stuff like that, it's understandable why Ian Evatt came in with this huge bravado. He came in with a great reputation from playing attractive, brilliant football at Barrow, and he joins a club that has a lot more history and even despite all the stripping away over the years, better facilities than Barrow. It's understandable why from the off he'd say, you know, we're gonna do our best in this league, we're gonna dominate, we're gonna aim for first, and we're gonna bring in the players to do that. And a lot of the players that we brought in certainly seems to culminate with that aim. The likes of Owen Doyle, the season prior's top scorer, Anthony Sarcevic, one of the best players in League Two last season and Plymouth's captain, Nathan Delfonso, who's been a regular Championship and League One player with Blackpool for many, many years. All those kind of players certainly seem to suggest that the aim was going to be we'll hit the heights. But the problem was we were also starting with a squad with only about 6 to 8 professionals. It was a massive rebuilding job. And considering that over that transfer window we had to bring in about 20 or so players, get many of them settled, you're asking a lot for all of them as well to actually click with the style of play he wants to play, and are they even good enough to start with because we're working within a certain budget, we're getting a lot of freebies, a lot of outcasts, and not all of them were going to work. And that kind of proved to be the case with the really mixed bag of the first half of the League Two season that we had last season. And despite all that, though, Evatt was banging on about this bravado. You know, if we're still in with a shout, we're still going to aim for it. And it, in a sense, considering some of the results we received, a humiliating 6-3 defeat at Port Vale, 2 trouncings by, it all just seemed like it wasn't going to happen. And then suddenly, January transfer window hits. We bring in fantastic players like Declan John, Darpo Afolayan, Kieran Lee, MJ Williams, who really filled in the cracks that were lacking in certain parts of in the first half of the season. And then suddenly, don't ask me how it happened, but at some point in February, suddenly it all just clicked. 11 wins in a row, 16 wins out of 21 throughout the entire second half of last season. Only 3 losses, 2 draws. I don't know what to tell you. It all just happened, and thankfully enough of the teams above us managed to slip up to the point that we could secure automatic promotion. And honestly, it's probably one of the greatest comeback stories League Two has ever seen.
They seem to go from like nowhere to somewhere to there. Like when you're watching it from afar, you kind of go, "Oh, they're 18th."
Yeah, I don't think I stated it specifically before, but we were 19th at the start of February.
Jesus Christ! I didn't
know.
actually realize we were that far down.
19th to 3rd. Those stories don't happen. And if we had turned one or two of those losses into wins, we honestly could have been first.
So
that's how tight it was.
Obviously, Ian Evatt didn't start off too popular, and you've mentioned kind of about how he came in and stuff like that. Is he now seen as someone who can take the club forward then, or does he still have some doubters because of the start he had?
I'm not if there are any doubters, they're certainly in a minority. Definitely. I definitely say more people are aboard the Evatt bandwagon than they were previously.
Mm-hmm.
That he's really repaying a lot of the faith that FE are showing in him, sticking with him, signing him on that 3-year contract and giving him as much of the tools as he needs to implement his style, giving him the time to do that. And it's really, really paid dividends. There are always, bits to work on here and there. But outside of that, I'd say, for the most part, his ambitiousness and his personality just clicks with where Bolton wants to be and what they can achieve going up. Yeah, he's definitely turned the ship around on his reputation. And honestly, as long as some other Championship club don't come in and swoop with a really big money offer for him. Yeah, exactly. Aldice is actually a really good example. Like, he was given a hell of a lot of backing by Eddie Davis and Phil Gartside back in the day, and they didn't. The only problem was that they didn't keep fulfilling his ambition. That's why he left us in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But meanwhile, I feel like there's a bit more of a understanding between our chairman Sharon Britton and, like I was saying, with other people behind the scenes and Ian Evatt for where we want to go once we achieve. And it feels like everyone's in it for the long haul. They have a vision of where they want this club to go. Whether FE can be in it for the long haul, because they've obviously not got the most money out of anyone in the league, and certainly not if we get the club to Championship level. They'll, budget-wise, be a small fish in a big pond. But yeah, no, let's say there's a unity there, and Ian Evatt's certainly a part of that journey, and we hope we can be. And right now, I'd say most fans can agree that we hope he's part of it for a long time.
You touched on it before about like his style of play, and I think you only have to look at the stats, which you often do when you're looking at a team that you're playing against because you haven't seen them in 90 minutes and so on and so forth, which gives away my secrets of exactly what I do before every preview show, but there you go. Scoring 14, conceding 12, that is one of the highest in both aspects in the league. It sounds really exciting from the outside looking in. I imagine it's a bit worrying from the inside, but what is this new look Bolton to watch? Like, what are we going to come up against on Saturday? Is it going to be kind of gung-ho, or is it just a case of you're really attacking and you've got a few gaps at the back?
I'd say there's gaps at the back if there's a more direct style of play played. We have been susceptible to some set pieces under Ian Evatt's reign. So maybe that's something that could be exploited, but it's also something that he's constantly working on. Mm-hmm. We did concede less set pieces as the season went on last season, and I can definitely see him doing the same this season. As for the way that we play, as you mentioned by the stats, I don't place much value into stats myself, but one thing that you can't deny is that we're definitely a possession-based side. Mm-hmm. We like to pass the ball about. We like to keep it amongst the wingers and hit it across. We try not to lose possession very cheaply, and our style of play certainly reflects that. I'd say sometimes we overdo it, especially in around the final third, where you know how that typical Wenger ball used to be. You always try to pass it into the back of the net sometimes instead of just having a shot. We're guilty of that. Definitely sometimes, but
probably talking about something in the past for both clubs here, but nonetheless, I'll bring it up. You had a couple of seasons under Phil Parkinson, a manager that many Sunderland fans, let's just be honest, didn't get on board with in due to a few reasons, but I'm going to say due to his style. So is Ian Evatt like the opposite of Parky Ball then?
Definitely. I mean, Parkinson was a success for us. I mean, obviously his style is definitely not for everyone. I think we can all agree on that. But it was successful for us. It was right for us at the time. We just needed a manager who was just going to be no nonsense and just get us back up. And thankfully, Parky did that. He kept us up the next season. So I'd say he's definitely remembered a lot more fondly among Bolton fans than he is among Sunderland fans.
Not so much, yeah.
Yeah. We thought when he made the transition, he'd kind of do similar for you, but I suppose it wasn't exactly the same kind of situation that it was with us and it was with you. So it didn't work out for him in that end. It's a shame because he's a nice bloke, as I think as most people can tell, but
he is actually.
Yeah. So he just doesn't, but he just didn't click with Sunderland, and that's how it is. And I wish him well at Wrexham.
Yeah, because he's now friends with Ryan Reynolds, so it's kind of worked out in the end, hasn't it?
It seems very not Hollywood. It's such a weird move, isn't it? But
he's the most un-Hollywood man I've ever seen in my life. He's like a substitute teacher hanging out with like Hollywood A-list celebs. I just don't understand it. But talking of Parkinson, one player that he brought in that actually never played a minute of football for us, because I don't know if he was unfit at the start and then the pandemic hit and the season was cancelled, was Declan John. He's had a nomadic few years. He spent time up here in Glasgow for Glasgow Rangers. Obviously been at Swansea for a long time with numerous loan deals, but he seems to have settled at Bolton. You touched on him before as being a good player. How's he getting on?
Yeah, he's been slightly unlucky with little niggles here and there this season, but when he came in last season, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it, but I'll just say that he was exactly what the left-hand side needed. Mm-hmm. Our left-back position was, in the first half of last season, a position where we really struggled. Our original first choice, Liam Gordon, definitely didn't click right away. He's doing better this season, but definitely didn't click right away. His backup, Jamie Maskell, showed that he wasn't up to it after a couple games, and then we ended up just putting placeholders there. Both of our right backs ended up playing at left back at some point. We put a centre back there at one point. Yeah, it was a real weakness, and when he came in, experienced head with a point to prove, and showed that he got over his woes. He started off like a house on fire, getting 2 goals in his first 2 games. Both of them leading and both of them providing wins in the end. He linked up extremely well with Darpo off the Lion, who I'm sure you've seen this season has again started like a house on fire. Yeah, those two ended up linking really well, and I don't know, it just seemed to work with us, and he's finally found a home. We gave him a 3-year contract as soon as his Swansea deal expired, and I don't think it's going to be a move that either party regret.
I think it's a lot of Sunderland fans will be wondering if he actually exists. So I think that might be one of the things to see him on Saturday.
Well, I think what it was when he was with you is that I think I've got the right player here. Was it Denver Hume who was playing at left back?
Yeah, Denver was playing at that point. Yeah,
I think he was in really good form initially under Parky. So, and I don't think Declan John came in right away fully fit. So I don't think he ever got the chance.
Pretty much. I think he would have probably played if the COVID season hadn't been cancelled and so on and so forth. But I think he got on the bench once or twice. But he's one of those mystery players that we forget actually wore red and white, but technically never wore red and white. So I don't know if it's a happy welcome back from on Saturday or just going to be there and we're going to just see that he actually does exist. But alongside him, obviously you brought him in permanently. And he was in loan originally, but you brought in a few players over the summer, obviously, as many teams do when they get promoted. The ones that stick out, obviously, George Johnson's come from Feyenoord, Josh Sheehan's come in, and another former Sunderland player, which I know some people won't be aware he played for Sunderland, some people maybe, because he played for us at academy level when he's very young, was the goalkeeper Joel Dixon, who obviously was at Barrow, I'm guessing, with Ian Evatt beforehand. They're the 3 that stick out to me. They're the 3 that have played most regularly. But how have the new signings settled in and which ones are showing their potential the most?
Well, Joel Dixon's coming in to replace a aging Matt Gilks, and who did well for us last season, but this season, I don't want to be mean and say that his age is showing, but he is making a few more mistakes than last season. So, yeah.
He's got to be quite old now, Matt Jones. He must be about 45.
Well, he's playing like it, but he's 39.
30. I wasn't far off, to be fair.
Yeah. Dixon has come in so far, and he's not, to be fair, he's not been properly challenged in front of goal yet, I'd really say. Obviously, he's conceded goals, but I don't think he's ever had the chance to make, that kind of worldy save yet. But what we have seen from him is that he's the kind of goalkeeper that you never like. He has a good eye for a pass, good with his feet, and seems to be calm. The only thing I'd say is lacking is a bit of a commanding voice that Matt Gilks had. If you ever heard Matt Gilks during a Bolton game last season, he was the only thing you could hear on iFollow. His voice was booming. Dixon's definitely on the quieter side compared to him, but outside of that, I'd say he's not been too bad. He's been brought in as a player that Evatt knows. Evatt thought he could make the step up from National League to League 2 to League 1, and so far he's doing that. In regards to Sheehan, he's kind of tempered off a little bit after his Wales call-up, but he was another one that started absolutely fantastically. He is potentially the answer to a couple of our set-piece problems. Last season, we didn't really have anyone who could take a decent corner or a decent free kick, and he's proven that he's better at it than what we had before, so there's some improvement there. He's kind of the creative force in the middle, and when he's on it, he's really on it. So I think I heard a few Newport fans saying he was ready for the jump up to League One a while ago, and we've taken advantage of that, and so far it's bearing fruit. And George Johnson, it was just nice to get one over on Wigan to get him for free. They wanted him back, we got him instead. But he does also seem to be suited to Evatt's style of play. Bit of a smaller centre-half compared to his usual partner Ricardo Santos, but has a good leap on him, and he's quite calm with the ball at his feet. Has a really good left foot, and another 3-year deal there that looks like it will potentially pay off for us in the end. Only 22 as well. Yeah,
I'd say signing that, wasn't it? Because he came from originally he came from Feyenoord, but I think he started at Liverpool and then signed for Feyenoord for 300,000. Then went on loan to Wigan. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's right. I think Wigan got him for the second half of last season because before their takeover, they were getting players from here, there, and everywhere. But he proved quite well with them, and from all accounts, it seems like they were hoping to sign him afterwards because his Feyenoord deal was expiring. But I don't know where it came from because he kind of signed out of nowhere. But we got him, and he's looking the business so far.
In terms of your other players, again, I'm outside looking in, especially when you've been away for a season. But the names that obviously stick out are Doyle, probably pronouncing this incorrectly, but Afolayan, and obviously Sarcevic was obviously very good for Plymouth. Then when they got promoted, dropped back down, as you touched on before. They, to me, would be your main men, but I'm looking at on paper and I'm looking at reputation as opposed to current form because I don't watch you every 90 minutes. You obviously do. Am I right in pinpointing those players, or is there other people that we should be watching on Saturday? You're
absolutely right in Afolayan because all he was missing from his game was end product, and with a return in all competitions of 5 goals, he's definitely worked on that aspect of his game. Doyle, we know he's a goal scorer, but he's not quite hit the same levels that he did last season in regards to returns. Like 2 of his 3 goals so far have been penalties. He missed a chance that he really would have scored 9 times out of 10 last game against Rotherham. So while he's probably still the main goal threat, he's not quite hit the heights that we were hoping for initially. Maybe that'll change as the season goes on because he's not really got any kind of players like him in our squad. All our other strikers, I'd say, are more, target men, battlers in that kind of sense. So we'll see how it goes with him. Sarcevic, he's definitely the leader right in the middle. But all three of them, I'd say, you'll get grafting performances from all of them. And that's the benefit to the type of, aggressive, hard-working style that Ian Evatt likes to play. Our right-hand side has workhorses like Declan John and Isgrove, but neither have really produced the output that we were hoping for. But one player that I do have to point out, right in the middle, actually I should say two, because there's two absolute rocks, one at CDM and one at centre-back that need pointing out. The CDM, MJ Williams, another former Liverpool Academy player. Apparently he had some kind of big leg injury that he never properly overcome, and then when he joined us, again, it's just one of those things that clicked.
I might be asking a stupid question here based on the stats and everything you've said and everything I've looked at before that we've obviously recorded today, but Bolton are not going to sit back on Saturday. They're going to come at us and try and go for the 3 points.
Ian Evatt does not play the lower block, and if we do, it's completely unintentional. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll force you into it, but it won't be intentional.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. If we play a low block, it's because we've been forced into it. It won't be in the game plan forever. It's just the kind of guy he is. He never likes to, in his favoured words, rest on his laurels. He always will try and get the win if he can. So this is probably gonna be a game with a lot of goals in it.
You've got like a 5-2 where the Ipswich was the one that would probably stand out because obviously went to Portman Road. Ipswich are another team that will be expected to win every game. God, I hope it doesn't happen like that. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's been a few games. There's been a couple of 3-3s, a 5-2 in there. I think there's been a couple of times where he's seemingly gone for it and it's worked for him, hasn't it? So he's not going to change his ways.
Nope. We will have games like when we faced like Lincoln where both teams go right at each other and just try to attack, but there might just be the odd goal in it. It might be a game like that, or like you said, it could be a game like when we faced MK Dons or AFC Wimbledon where it's 3-3, or it could be an Ipswich game where it's 5-2, where both teams do try to go for it, but one defence is more on top than the other. It's a really hard game to predict where it could go, but the one guarantee is that it will probably be exciting.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, as long as it goes in our favour. But in terms of Sunderland, it's probably my favourite part of the podcast, to be fair, because it's always interesting to get a viewpoint of your club from another side. Aidan McGeady was always the person that people would pinpoint, and sometimes do this season because of his obvious talent, his obvious ability, and his obvious reputation. But from the outside looking in, which players concern you from Sunderland side most going into the weekend?
I'd say players like Carl Winchester and Elliot Embleton are going a bit under the radar.
Yeah, from the outside looking in. Yeah, I would agree with that, especially Winchester. Yeah. Randomly playing at right back and as a midfielder and doing superbly well.
If he still plays at right back against us, him versus Dapo Afolayan is going to be very, very interesting.
I'm no good at this at the end. Score predictions. I've got one right so far this season. I got 3 right the whole of last season. So I'm not a betting man for obvious reasons, but I'll go with my prediction anyway. I quite fancy a high-scoring draw, which might be a bit obvious after obviously hearing what we both had to say, but I'll go for a 2-2, which wouldn't be great for us, but I'll take it, I suppose. But where you're going, James, on Saturday?
Oh, I really want to be extremely biased and just say Bolton win, but my head won't let me. My head won't let me. That's how much I actually believe in this team. I actually believe we can pull off a win away at Sunderland. I'll go for... You know what? Balls to the wall. Screw it. It's going to be a 3-3 draw. Another one.
God, I don't think I could take that. Jesus Christ. Unless we scored the third late. Yeah, well, fair enough. But James, thanks very much as always for coming on and giving us a lowdown on Bolton. Very excited for the game myself. Obviously, it's our first time going down to the Scottish branch. So if anyone sees us, say hello. Obviously, I'm down every game anyway. But if we go down as a branch, please do say hello. I wish you all the luck in the world for the rest of the season. Very pleased to see the club is still alive and kicking, because the last thing I think anyone would want is for your club, or most clubs in this league, to do, unfortunately, what happened to Bury. So it's pleased to see your club alive and kicking, but hopefully not too kicking on Saturday, but you can be fine after that. But James, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's been a great chat. I've loved it.
No problem, mate. Thank you.